Why run for Senate in 2018 after running for president 2 times before?
This came as a complete surprise to me, but what's at stake is potentially being the swing vote in the U.S. Senate, being an independent voice, and I think that would have huge influence for New Mexico. My number one issue is the deficit, the debt, and if we don't address it, I think we're in for horrible inflation.
What do you feel is the biggest difference between the Republican and Libertarian parties?
I have issues. I have issues that I agree with when it comes to Democrats and Republicans both. But it seems like both of the parties, Republican and Democrat, have kind of morphed into whatever it takes to move along. But whatever it takes to move along involves not getting along with each other at all. And I have the opportunity to reach out to both sides, so it's an exciting prospect. And I think I might just really be at the tip of the spear of what's going to change in America today, which will be independent-minded people getting elected to Congress. I'm a firm believer in term limits. I think term limits would be a silver bullet.
What should be the role of federal government today after 200 years previous?
Well, limiting the size and scope of the federal government, that would be, and that's constitutional. I promise to uphold the U.S. Constitution, and the U.S. Constitution is a document that is solely all about limiting the size and the scope of government.
How do you balance tax cuts versus budget cuts in the United States government?
Well, if you're going to have tax cuts, you've got to have spending cuts to go along with it. And we're not having any spending cuts whatsoever. So we're going to have $1 trillion debt this year. If debt was the key to success, Zimbabwe would be the center of the world, followed by Venezuela. Both of those countries have experienced severe inflation. We're not immune to having the same thing happen here. The same thing is going to happen here unless it gets addressed, the deficit.
What does the free market mean for you, and what is your vision for it?
Well, that the free market is a solution to everything. That there isn't anything that the private sector doesn't do better than the public sector. Nothing.
You have a unique perspective on immigration in New Mexico after being governor for 2 terms. How does that influence you in Washington for the immigration issue?
Well, I think it's a really important perspective. Having been the governor of a border state, look, let's make it as easy as possible for somebody that wants to come into this country and work to be able to get a work visa. And a work visa should entail a background check and a social security card so that taxes get paid. Should we build a wall across the border? No. At some point in this country's future, if we build a wall, we're going to tear it down for what it represents. Should there be border security? Yeah, there should be border security. We don't want truckloads of drugs coming across the border. We don't want truckloads of convicts coming across the border. But we're a country of immigrants. Immigration is a good thing.
So, what does net neutrality mean for you, and do you think it serves its purpose?
I don't want to legislate anything when it comes to the internet. This is truly as libertarian as it gets. Everybody has an equal voice. And if you start futzing with it, that's not going to be the case, and I'll include net neutrality legislation in futzing with it. Let's not futz with it.
How do we address mental health concerns, and especially in rural communities where it is harder to find mental health resources?
First of all, if the free market existed for mental health care, it would be much more affordable than it currently is, which would allow for greater access. And also the awareness that this is a big issue, that mental health care is on par with physical health care.
Vote for you, especially if they felt left out in Washington and getting the help they need and the resources here in their communities.
First of all, are we really after resources, or aren't we really after potential remedy? Aren't we after goods and services that can be given to us at the lowest cost possible? I think that's really where we're at. So rural New Mexico, all of New Mexico, I had an open door after four policy as governor of New Mexico. I'll have the same policy as a U.S. Senator from New Mexico. I also pledged to have a waste, fraud, and abuse open door after four policy in Washington, D.C. I think that would be very entertaining on a national level. What's the senator from New Mexico saying about waste, fraud, and abuse this week? What's the award of the week? I think it'll be a topic of conversation.